Hey guys, we're going to try a new strategy today as you take notes in your AP World History class. Today we're going to try SQ3R. SQ3R stands for Survey, Question, Read, Recite, Review. And the idea is they're trying to think about the text while they're reading, and then they're also trying to figure out, okay, what exactly am I looking for as you go? And so this will be helpful because it gives you sort of some anticipation about what's important and also helps you to narrow down some of the more important ideas, which is something really challenging in an AP World History textbook with lots of information. So the first thing you do is you are going to survey the material. And so when we say survey the material, you're going to take a look at this and you're going to start noting maybe some key ideas or things to look at. Your reading for tomorrow is Chapter 10 about the Mediterranean Society or the Greek phase. So here we've got listed the key concepts, which might be something that would be good to skim over. You also have the chapter focus, which kind of explains what you guys learned in World History 1 last year. So we've got some information about Homer, so now you're probably thinking, okay, I think I remember some of this. I know about some of this stuff. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. And so now the idea is you want to start looking through and starting to look at some of the main headings and subheadings you've got. So it looks like you're going to start with some early development of Greek society, move into Minoan and Mycenaean societies, and they give you some examples such as Knossos. They also talk about the decline of Minoan society. And so as you're going through here, you're going to go into the next stage of SQ3R. You're going to question this. So this will mean you begin to generate questions about your reading from previewing it. And so the idea here is that you want to start to try and come up with some questions about what you're reading. So if we're looking at our text here, and it says early development of Greek society, Minoan and Mycenaean societies, this would be a good time to start listing off some questions that you might think are important as yet to answer and that the text is trying to tell you about. So in this case, as we're labeling, so this would be Chapter 10, Greece. So maybe some questions we might want to ask is, we've got early development of Greek society. Maybe you're asking, how did Greece's early development influence Greece? And so here, what you're going to do is, so you've written some questions, and now you'll go through and, shocking, you are going to answer them. So now that you've gone through the S and the Q, you're going to start reading. So as you read, you'll need to look for answers based on the questions you're formulating. These questions will help focus your reading and give you an idea of what's important and what's going on later. All right, so we're reading here. How did Greece's early development influence Greece? And so this will tell you in here, as you're reading, you're going to try and figure out, okay, so you've got Minoans and Mycenaeans, so Minoans and Mycenaeans might be important. And so here, as you're reading, what you're trying to figure out is how Minoans were important and what kind of characteristics that Greece had as they developed. So it says, during the late 3rd millennium BCE, a sophisticated society arose on the island of Crete. Scholars referred to it as Minoan society after Minos, a legendary king of ancient Crete. So there's a series of lavish palaces, there's a lot of frescoes, and so as you're going, you may want to add in some different details about what you've seen. So we've seen that these guys are on the island of Crete. It looks like, and so as I'm reading, I'm finding some information about economic and commercial matters. So between 2200 and 1450 BCE, Crete was a center of Mediterranean commerce. That sounds like it would be really important. And so as you go, the idea would be that you would have these questions that you can answer, and you're answering so that when you're answering, it helps you to focus your reading on what exactly you're trying to figure out. So later on, to finish up your strategy here, the next thing you do is recite. So As you start to move through the text and as you're reading and finishing things up and reviewing for your reading quiz, you can recite or rehearse the answers and make notes about these answers for later studying. Just like with your Cornell notes, you may also want to leave a little space to add in additional info as you learn. So maybe you want to put extra information over here. So for example, you may want to add in some space to add in information about nosos if we talk about it in class. Or you may want to add in some extra details from other things that you've learned. So perhaps just adding some information on the side. So the last portion of the SQ3R strategy is to recite and review. So after your reading, you may want to go through and say, well, I have some information about the Minoans, and what I have about the Minoans sort of tells me who the Minoans were, but I'm still not seeing exactly how these guys influenced Greece. Now, to be fair, I've read roughly 2.5 paragraphs, so you probably have some more information. Point being, if you didn't answer these questions or you're still not exactly sure, this would be a good time to kind of go back through, maybe look at what we've discussed in class, or maybe discuss with your peers what exactly you could do to answer these questions. You may also at the end realize that this question may not be the most important one to what you would want to know in the future, and so you may want to add a different question or rephrase the question, which would be fine. You could just strike it out or add in an or, and then give a second question. The idea behind the SQ3R is that you're trying to focus your reading and give yourself a purpose as you're reading for what you're trying to do and where the most important information is. By going through and reviewing in advance the headings, the subheadings, and maybe even the bolded words, and turning them into questions for further review, this will give you an opportunity to narrow down your notes, to make things easier, and to focus in on the bigger picture rather than trying to memorize details such as between 1200 and 1450 BC, which really isn't going to help you in an AP perspective. They're looking for interactions, they're looking for relationships, they're looking for the spice, the social, the political, the interaction between humans and the environment, the cultural, and the economic. So if you're looking at those 5 things and trying to figure those out, that's the place that you'll be solid. Thank you.